Look here under optimal power. Let's set this up real quick. We do want to transition at high engine speeds very easily into optimal power. So I'm going to go and right click here. Actually, we don't need to change anything there in our axes. These scaling breakpoints should be fine. I was going to change the scalar breakpoints. Those would be fine. Let's go here to 6,000 and we'll set this to something like 10. 5,000, we'll set it to something like 20. 4,000, something like 30. 3,000, we'll set it to something like 50. 2,000, we'll set it to something like 75. And 1,500, we'll set it to 89% on the pedal position. So that's what we put our foot on in the car. So this is going to be the transitioning threshold for pedal position to switch over to optimal power. We're lowering down and making it easier to get into optimal power mode. With a supercharger, we're typically very easily going to be transitioning in and out of economy to optimal power because we build boost pretty quick. So we want to make sure the thresholds are lowered so that we're not running lean or in a condition that it's not going to be optimal for operating our engine. Engine load percent, we see everything here is set to 85 to 80. I'm going to set this entire table here. Let's go to 90. So 0.9 in the load. I'm going to raise that up a little bit because it's very easy to transition into boost. We'll easily be able to build a load value higher than 0.9 being forced induction. Now the load hysteresis, it has to drop below this in order to switch back to economy. I'm going to go and raise this up to something like 0.8. Set them all to 0.8. That way it has to be at 0.9 to enter it, plus the pedal position, and then to exit it has to be below that particular amount of hysteresis here. So 0.8 and below, it'll switch back. So that's going to be how it switches between economy and optimal power. In the actual variable cam programming, we're going to leave this stock values and then tweak it and adjust it as we go through. As we get into the full throttle tuning tutorial, I'll talk about and show actually changing and updating the variable cam scheduling. Now I actually have good variable cam scheduling here for optimal power for Whipple, but I want to go and walk you through what that looks like to actually dial things in if you have a chassis dyno available. So some things we want to go cover there. Let's take a look here, a few other things. The max phasing limit, there's an advance. There's -40, that should be sufficient. There's a retard here, 40 degrees, and that should be sufficient there. I'm going to leave all these values alone in there. Taking a look, one thing I do want to take a look at real quick here is the distance table for best fuel economy. Let's see if this makes sense. We're using this as a way we go from optimal stability at idle into best fuel economy as we're just driving around, and then as we meet the pedal and load thresholds, we switch to optimal power. So this is calling on our cam to rotate to get it into position as we go up to these higher loads here in our fuel economy distance table to call on the correct cam pairing rotation or movement. So what we can do to make sure that this table is reasonable to meet the optimal power thresholds that we're programming right here for the variable cam timing that we're trying to call on there. Let's use our Excel spreadsheet. Let's go in here to our VCT table, and we need to copy our map points, intake and exhaust, so we can just look at this real quick and see this table in a three-dimensional view in terms of what we're calling out for cam angle, and then compare it to what we're calling out for the cam pairing, cam movement, and optimal power, making sure that the cam is able to start to rotate and get in the position. So as we're going up in load, it's starting to advance and starting to bring in overlap as we're starting to work with this. So it's just getting the cam in position, getting it rotating to where it needs to be, calling on from our distance table here. So what we need to do is jump in here to our intake valve opening. We're going to copy this column, put it into our spreadsheet here. This just again gives us a way we can visualize what's going on easier, and you'll see this in a second here. And let's jump in here to our exhaust valve closing. Let's copy this. And then we need to go copy our array, which is our fuel economy here. Let's copy our array table. Looks like that matches what I have in there already. We don't need to do anything here with any of our columns. These are just a way we can see how it transcribes the movement in the cam pairings going between values of something like 1.1 or 1.2. We can see how that calls on what plots here. What we need to do is copy and paste in our, let's copy our distance table here. So best fuel economy, you know that it's not using, again, best drivability because the load threshold set to 5.0 load, and we're not going to reach that high. So we're just transitioning from the economy to optimal power back to economy again. Let's copy these values, the values. The distance values, which call on the map points here, let's put them into our distance table here. And then below, the blue is going to be our cam pairing movement, our command movement, the target movement on their intake. The yellow is going to be in the exhaust, so we can kind of see what this looks like. Now what we do want to do here, if we scroll down just a little bit, we do want to copy our optimal power values from the calibration file into the blue and yellow so we can compare it and see how we're transitioning from our economy to optimal power back to economy again. Just making sure we have our cams rotating and starting to get them in position to enter optimal power. We don't want the cam to have an abrupt change. It can definitely create a jarring effect and drivability type of issues. So we want to make sure that we have things in order there. So we are going to go into our intake valve opening.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.